Shout out grandma.
Shout out Kathy.
We're just full of shout outs today. Shout out my dad, your grandma, Duluth, all of it.
All of it. Okay.
So today is kind of bridging from last week's episode where we talked about the process of getting someone in the right van for them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of different, obviously we offer a lot of different components, a lot of different things just from, even just like chassis. We talked about chassis height and length and that kind of stuff. So kind of going from that, people who have special needs, something that's not maybe the norm for a camper van or a commercial unit for that matter. So we want to talk about just like what the process is for that kind of thing. So if someone approaches us who's in a wheelchair, we have an owner currently who's wheelchair bound, and that's something that we worked with him on to make the build work for him. So yeah, just want to touch on what that process is for you and kind of where you begin and how you get to an end product that works for them.
Yeah. So all about accessibility and just kind of like taking care of the different clients. Like in the prior video, it was about kind of like you got that tree. You kind of got like what directions you want to go. Pricing guides you in a direction. Build out guides you in a direction. Like all these different things guide you in different ways. And accessibility is a very large piece of that. Like we talk about the bed options, like certain beds only work for certain people because of the height at which they got to be able to get in, get out, length that they have to be, and all these different things. And we have taken care of a lot of different needs. Every time we take care of needs, it really is a game of trying to do our best job to ask all the questions to try to help that individual get into a successful unit. The individual you're talking about, Jeremy McGee, like we have a lot of videos. He's an ambassador of ours. He's been great to work with. I would say that he was our first customer where we really had to define like how to take care of him. And what ended up being crazy is that we did a lot of custom just to kind of come full circle just to options we offer now to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just things you don't think about. It's just things that, I would say like for myself, like in some cases you could almost say take for granted. And so we just had to look at the same feature in a different way. And just like our gear slide, how he, Jeremy, he is in a wheelchair. So how he pulls out our gear slide, same way of doing it, but for him, we had to kind of change up a handful of different little things. And so not just that, but, the workings of inside the vehicle, just reaching the rinse down hose, that's a different thing. Being able to see and check water level. There's all these different little changes that we kind of realized, but what was pretty interesting working through his build is every time like he made a suggestion or something we needed to do, most of all of his suggestions or changes were ones that would come full circle. In a lot of cases, it just made the products we were already doing, in most cases, just better. That and it stretched us. It stretched us to have to try to do things for him to realize like, hey, we probably need to figure out how to do this for all as well. And I would say he is on the end of down the road of being more specific. So like we had to accommodate an actual chair lift. We have other clients too though, where it's not so much about needing to figure out how to navigate a wheelchair inside the vehicle. It's simply that for them to be mobile outside the vehicle, they have to have a wheelchair. We have a couple, I think we've got a handful of customers who are kind of in that boat where accessibility isn't, strictly a wheelchair or things like that. It could be, we have, and I don't know exactly, but whenever it comes to hearing and seeing, we have no one blind. We haven't really had to tackle that. but a lot of hearing and things like that, where again, it's accessibility of trying to figure out, it's like, okay, so a buzzer for the power system is a little bit different. So we have to come up with a way to accommodate for that. Most people, I would say, who understand that they want to use these vans, not just for transport. You have transportation, and we've done a lot of work there, especially in our prior company, on the fleet side of things. We did a lot of handicap rentals and things like that. But whenever we get into the actual build outs, people usually, I feel like, come in with a mindset of knowing that they're wanting to get into a adventure van, a camper van, and knowing that that's not necessarily ideal for them. And I would say, like, just having that mindset for all people is really nice, because then we can actually be successful with finding ways to take care of them. Whenever it's really rigid to say, no, it's got to be exactly like this, it's very tough, because everything is give and take. And so, kind of like we talked about in the prior video, you got to work down through that chain. You got to work down through those different avenues. Well, that's what we're talking about here as well. Yeah. And so, for Jeremy, there was a lot of, there were a list of new things that we had to figure out how to take care of. But the list was it's probably longer on the side of just, we got to do what we've already done. We just got to do it different. And so going through that was very eye-opening, just from a design perspective. It's kind of like, anytime I feel like myself or Nick or any of us design anything, now moving forward, having helped out Jeremy and some others, it helps us think about, okay, here's another perspective that we can use when we're designing this from scratch. Would an individual be able to use this, if they had to be in a wheelchair, or if they don't have great mobility. And I would say that's one that, that's one that we just got done working with on some like new steps for the van. It's a matter of, if you look at our demographic is not what Vanlife out there says it is. It's not early
stereotype.
Yes, it's not early 20s. It's we have owners. We actually do have some owners in their 20s. Actually, we have an owner now who's in their teens.
Oh my gosh. We'll have to have him on here at some point, and he can talk about that.
Pod Daddy. So we now hit the teens.
That's very impressive.
Very impressive. We've hit the teens with an employee. We have quite a few owners. I wouldn't say a lot. Quite a few owners in the upper 20s. I would say post-college, nurses, coming out to travel. We have quite a few there. But then we really hit our stride, I would say, probably in the upper 30s and 40s, But then we got good old, I love my woman, Carol.
Everyone loves Carol.
I love Carol. Carol's probably on the higher end. I mean, I know for a fact we're in the upper 70s with owners.
But Carol's only 25.
Carol acts like she's 25. Yes,
she does. That's very true.
I would never pick a fight with Carol.
Yeah, no, which is why we're gonna say she looks 25.
Yeah, I love Carol. This is also an episode of shoutouts. So
love Carol.
Love Carol. And so, but really, whenever we get into that higher, age, it starts to become. Accessibility starts to become more the little things. It's taking into consideration, so like our new steps that we're almost ready to release. We widen them simply because, like, I will tell you from a looks perspective, I would like for them to be a little bit tighter, cleaner, sleeker look. Yeah. But from a usability, we can't care only about look because you got to be able to put your whole foot on that step. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be able to step on it with a good planted foot and be able to step on out of the vehicle. Yeah. And we have larger owners, and so weight's always a thing. So we always try to do our best to understand that what we're designing needs to accommodate. So bed capacities, options for bed heights, that's a big one. Can you get in? Can you get out? I think I said this last week on the podcast, but It's kind of like whenever people are sleeping in bed, it's a matter of, well, we need to sleep a certain way because we're old. We got to get out of the bath. We got to get out of bed in the middle of the night. We got to go to the bathroom. You know, and so it's just taking into consideration, trying to do our best to take care of all owners. And what's like one thing I think we've learned most is when we understand that who we really need to try to take care of are the ones that are most difficult to take care of, it kind of does free it up for everybody else, if that makes sense. Like having a wider step, if we know that allows, you know, if that allows, well, I'll just say it. Not, this isn't a shout out, but my father-in-law, BK, he's a bigger guy. Also, like between knees, joints, hips, all his stuff, he's probably broken everything. You know, some days some days he doesn't walk as well as other days. You know, Andy, like 2-time cyclist champion.
Honestly, Andy's in better shape than I am.
Andy is a stud.
It's crazy.
But you know, with different surgeries and hips, there's some days where it's a struggle to step up into something. Heck, there's some days I'm so sore from working out, I can't hardly get into something. So stop snickering, Austin. So it's just understanding that it's not we care about the look. It's, you know, it's not, was that form over function? You know, it's just trying to take into consideration that step. I have no issue hopping up in these vans, like just stepping up, jumping up, whatever. My kids don't have any issues. But that's not everybody. And so we try to accommodate the accessibility for all things. You know, it's been a big topic of like your front swivel seats, you know, trying to be able to spin your front swivel seats, you know, with the doors closed. Disclaimer, you can, but it does take maneuvering them a little bit. And it's just, again, it's some of that give and take of understanding like, hey, you can do this, but here's how we're going to do it, or this is how you're going to need to do it. And so, but with our modularity too, we have an owner. You know, she has to sleep a very specific way for her back. And the best thing for her is to sleep down low. And so basically we figured out how with modularity and changing her setup, she sleeps actually on the floor, because it's best for her back. It's solid, it's sturdy. You know, she can actually truly lay flat. And that's what she needs, you know, but with that also, because of her back, you know, she has a tough time bending over for things. So we changed her layout in her van. So she actually lays down in the back area. She has no bed above. So she lays down in the back area. So for bedtime, she just pulls her mattress down and goes onto the floor. But next to it, we actually put her fridge up on drawers and modules so that her drawer or her fridge is actually up at like chest height, so she doesn't have to bend over into it. And so again, she just made us aware of what she needed. And because we're so versatile, it was really pretty straightforward. It's just so much of just, okay, like what are the big things that you need and have? And then we try to work through that. And so, you know, water connections, high, low, switches in the bed areas. And so I would say for the most part, we love a good challenge, because challenge really helps us push design forward. You know, as time has went on, you know, COVID and all the different things, it's been tougher for us to take on challenges just because of, you know, workload and things like that. But I really believe with kind of where we're going and just the amazing work of the team, the engineering team, you know, especially shout out to them. It's been just a massive step in the direction of accommodating for people. And they all, our designers, myself, we all have the mindset that we need to find the worst case scenario. And we got to figure out how to make them successful. It's no different than our business philosophy. This is going to sound really bad saying this, so bear with me.
Preparing.
Prepare yourself. But it's a matter of, if we can find a way to educate the person that's hardest to educate, we win. Because if we can figure out how to get the point across to them to make them successful, we can make everyone successful.
Yeah.
That's more front end. That's more sales.
Mm-hmm.
If we can figure out a process, procedure, and a way to get customers into units successfully, and we can do that with, when a customer's like, hey, yeah, no, I'm pretty good with whatever. Don't build a process around them.
Yeah.
You build the process around the person who's very particular, has to know every fact, because then it helps us determine, what is necessary, needed. Because the person who doesn't care is going to look past it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like trying to navigate that, trying to take care of all. It's we have a very, very large demographic of who we sell to, which I love the most.
Yeah.
The second part is whenever customers get into their vans. Some owners, and there's probably a few who will watch us and say, well, that's maybe me. And they'll say, I bug the support team every day. I am blowing up the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that as opportunity for us to figure out ways to make ourselves better, to take care of, and it's not worst customer. Worst is not a word whenever it comes to a person asking for things. Some of my greatest relationships were built around people that I would say was probably either a really rough go, or it was very tough to get to understand them well enough to figure out how to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'd say is trying, if we can take care of the customers asking all the questions on the front end, be successful every time, we're taking care of all. And if we can figure out how to take care of that very particular customer who maybe, has never been in a camper van and needs that knowledge and help support, if we can figure out how to take care of them on the back end, we're once again successful for all. Yeah. And that's really the goals. And that just circles through also like accessibility and things like that. We're never going to say no. Mm-hmm. We just need to figure out, is there give and take? Can there be give and take? Mm-hmm. And if there's not, then that's what we got to figure out how to try to take care of. I mean, that's what all reality, that's what it boils down to. Mm-hmm. And so, I think, when it comes to, Jeremy McGee and him being so gracious to, give us the time and the ability, we've had a lot of conversations. And, because it is sometimes it gets frustrating, it gets difficult because we're not hearing each other. Mm-hmm. We're trying to figure out paths. We're trying to figure out these avenues. But again, you go to our website, look at our buy video I did, look at all of it. Again, accessibility is another one of those things to just give us the opportunity to see if we can take care of you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's something we already do.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to do it in a different way.
Yeah.
That's usually what we have learned is that also we've built a lot of vans. We've taken care of a lot of clients and a lot of customers. We might be able to help you foresee where you need to be. Yeah. If you're a person where you're kind of going in a direction where you believe maybe not today you're going to have to be in a wheelchair, but maybe you might need to be in a year from now, we can help set you up for success. Yeah. Because again, we've been there. We've done these kind of applications, so we can just help. Not try to take care of you today, and a lot of that's trust, and I'm not asking for necessarily blind faith and trust in the beginning. What I am saying, build rapport with your individual, build rapport with your salesperson, just so you can be as open as you possibly can be. Yeah. Because the more you are, the more we can try to do our best as a company to make sure what you're doing, and sometimes at the end of the day, just makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what we want.
Yeah. I think that's the most important side of it is we've touched on it, I think, in probably every single episode, the family aspect and how when we care for people and what we're trying to do to help them. And even when you say build the rapport from the sales guru to the customer, it's not in a salesy way. It's not empty, it has a lot of heart behind it. And that's that comes from your leadership, Brent's leadership, just down to the rest of the team. But we truly care. And when we're creating these solutions for people, it's not just, let's just get it done, get them out the door and be done with that. Right. I think you and Nick and the rest of the team are very specific and deliberate with doing things that can be repeated. You want to find a really solid solution that you can do again, and like you said, it might apply to somebody else who's in the same accessibility situation, and it might just be better for somebody who's not, you know, and you're like, wow, we found a solution is like a 2-for-1, you know?
Right.
But I think that's like a really important part of it. So I don't know if you have any more to share on like that side of things, just like that it is meant to be for, you know, not just a short-term solution for people.
No, I mean, it's just sometimes it's hard to know like what things are going to look like for you, especially if you've never been in a vehicle. And again, that's just where we might be able to do a loaner for you. Like there's just certain things we can say, hey, come in, tour, maybe come back in like a couple weeks after you've thought through it. Let's come back again. Like let's go through this thing slow if needed. Let's go through it fast if needed. It's as long as we can build that relationship, that's the biggest thing. We do that, something will happen in one regard. You know, it's not always this podcast called what, More Than a Van. I mean, that's really what it is. A van is a piece of the puzzle to which the life you are wanting to live, currently live, change, whatever the case might be. And so we just know that we don't want to be the burden. That's the biggest thing. So we only want to be a helping hand. We only want to be a tool to help you with your endeavors. And so
van life is for everybody.
Body.
Everybody. Insert rap here. Rap that I don't have, so hopefully you do.
No, I don't. So, okay. Well, I think that's our time on this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be looking forward to more.
More than a van.
More than a van. More than a van. More than a van.
Can we add that to the end of the episode now? The whispers.
We out.